and that was all in secret. So what I'm saying is these are not trivial amounts of money, and they don't involve just a few people. They involve lots of people, lots of money. Secrets can be kept. And yes, of course, it's people who keep secrets, but the procedures are pretty stringent. You got to have an appropriate security clearance, and much more important, really, is you have to have an appropriate need to know. Many people have told me, well, Stan, if you got a top secret clearance, that gets you access to everything, doesn't it? No, it does not. When I was working on nuclear airplanes, radiation shielding for, I had a Q clearance, which is all I needed for the work that we were doing. I wrote classified reports and so forth. But I found in classified abstracts listings for reports that the nuclear Navy was doing on radiation shielding. And, gee, that looked like it might be right up my alley, something I need. However, I could not get a need-to-know access to that program. Admiral Rickover said, no way, Jose, you don't get it. I had the clearance. I didn't have the need to know. So, yes, secrets can be kept, and the press is not always anxious to get at them. We can see that in the UFO question. When was the last time an investigative journalist spent some real effort on digging out the truth about flying saucers? Now, there's a guy named Billy Cox. George Knapp is the second one. There are a couple of others. But otherwise, the New York Times doesn't. They presume if there was anything to it, they would already know about it. So why should they waste their time on something that can't possibly be real, because they would have heard about it already? That's a self-fulfilling prophecy, you understand.
Right. Do you have to have a certain ability to suspend reality, which is one of the things that we had to do when we were making Babylon 5, is that when you walked onto the set and you saw the props and you saw the varying groups that were represented from other galaxies and other life forms, that, well, somebody really doesn't have three heads with scales, but they did. So we had to figure out how we would suspend our own reality. Are too many people tied to their own reality that the possibility that something else out there exists will never allow to enter the gray matter between their ears?
Yes, I think that's a major problem. It's a good point to bring up. And look, we had a similar problem a few hundred years ago when Nicolaus Copernicus in 1543 had the gall to suggest that the Earth was not in the center of the universe, that the other bodies around, the planets and sun, didn't revolve around the Earth. I mean, how ridiculous. Of course they did. Well, Nick died that year that his book came out. His book was banned for 300 years, mind you, for expressing a view that was unpopular with the church and thinking people. So, yes, we have trouble believing, A, that our society is not at the top of the heap, and there are still people who believe the world was created in 4004 B.C., and I think it was October 25th. Bishop Ussher said that. Went through the Old Testament, came up with a lot of begatting, and that was it. I think he left 6 zeros out of that. So old ideas die hard. New ideas, Max Planck, a great German physicist, once said, new ideas come to be accepted, not because their opponents come to believe in them, but because their opponents die, and the ideas come to be accepted. We grow accustomed to them.
Yeah, one of the things, I certainly don't even attempt to match wits with you. Well, by the way, Stanton Friedman is with us, nuclear physicist. His book, Flying Saucers and Science, you can get at his website, stantonfriedman.com. A lot of skeptics out there about we've never gone to the moon. Now, supposedly, one of the theories is that, well, if we went to the moon, that lunar rover would still be on the moon. We have the Hubble telescope. We can reach into the deepest, darkest recesses and give us the birth of the entire universe. Why don't they just turn that thing and take a shot of the lunar rover sitting on the moon, and then we'll know that it was there?
Well, we have made some observations. The Hubble is not designed to look at something that's very bright. It's like the Kepler space satellite that's out there. People have said, well, aliens come from Zeta Reticuli, which I think they do, some of them, but the point is you cannot use Kepler to look at that because it's in a fixed orbit, looking at the same stars over and over again in a small part of the sky about the size of your hand at arm's length. the Hubble is not designed to look at something as bright as the moon, and the moon is bright. Now, if you could turn around and look at the backside of the moon, that would be different, but we can't, you know.
Right.
So I have not seen good arguments against our being on the moon. We have the rocks, which are definitely different than the rocks we have down here, partly because there's no atmosphere up there, so everything is massaged by meteorite dust, if you will, on the moon. Also, we have seismometers on the moon that measure, pardon the expression, moonquakes. We left them up there. And the foreword to that book, Flying Saucers and Science, was written by Edgar Mitchell, who was there, Sixth Man to Walk on the Moon. And so it's not that we know what's going on everywhere, but this is one case where we do have good, solid information. Now, of course, can we be keeping other secrets that I haven't talked about? Of course we can. And that's the kicker. There was a Brookings Institute study done way back in about 1960, the impact of contact with extraterrestrial life. And one of the things they said, interestingly enough, is that the people who might be most upset are the engineers and scientists who can't handle them not being at the top of the heap. If somebody more advanced than us is out there, holy cow, my ego is just gone to ground,
Right. All of this stuff is fascinating, and haven't had the opportunity to work with people in your field, nuclear physicists and astrophysicists and astronauts and what I consider to be true dreamers, modern-day pioneers that believe that there is something greater than us out there, which is not a knock to my ego and to most people in your field's ego, but I think it's just the reverse, that it's very egotistical of people to think that we are it and to not open their minds to the possibility that maybe there's something else out there that just might be something we could benefit from.
Well, one of the things that really gets my ire up is the ancient academics and fossilized physicists who say you can't get here from there. They think we're limited to chemical rockets, for goodness sakes. I worked on nuclear fission rockets and did a study on nuclear fusion rockets. Now, every civilization out there that's at least as advanced as us, which probably means all of them, because we haven't been around that long, will be aware of nuclear fusion, because that's what works in the stars. And yet I find the academics don't even know that we have aircraft carriers, nuclear-powered fission, that can operate for 18 years without refueling.
Wow, I wish we could get that in our cars. Yeah, maybe we can get that in my SUV. I wish we had more time, Mr. Friedman, but we don't. This is fascinating stuff. Go to Mr. Friedman's website, StantonFriedman.com. Check out his book, Flying Saucers and Science, and do a little homework. Open up your mind, suspend your reality before the movie Apollo 18 comes out on September 2nd. I really appreciate your time, Mr. Friedman. I hope we have a chance to do it again.
Okay. Thanks.
The Jerry Doyle Show.
How about a great Lunar Rover commercial? Sears Die Hard battery. Two guys all these years later get in it, started up. As it drives away, Sears Die Hard battery in the back. Perfect. Stick with me.
The Jerry Doyle Show.